I now have the distinct pleasure of presenting an honorary Master of Philosophy degree in Human Ecology to Dr. Wade Davis. For those of you who attended Wade's talk on Thursday night, I don't need to tell you that he is a man of great range and geographic reach, an anthropologist, an ethnobotanist, a photographer, an author, a professor, an explorer at large at National Geographic. Wade is a man of many talents, and we're very pleased to have you here with us today. So Wade, please join me up here at the podium. By the power vested in me as chairman of the Board of Trustees of the College of the Atlantic, it is my privilege to confer upon Wade Davis the honorary degree of Master of Philosophy in Human Ecology. His name will be joined to the remarkable group of honorary degree recipients. Thank you, Dr. Davis. We're delighted to honor your many contributions to human ecology.
Thank you. Boy, I'm kind of dizzy. It's an honor to be with you, but it's especially an incredible honor. I'm actually an Irish citizen, so to share this podium with Mary just breaks my heart. I thought that was the most amazing moment that I've experienced for a long time. God bless you. Everybody loves you. And I'm Irish, but I live in British Columbia, so I was thrilled by Allison being here. And she mentioned something about graduates of human ecology not getting jobs. Well, let me tell you about a friend of mine, Steve. He graduated with something worse, that awful word around here, liberal arts. And he didn't know what to do. So he went to India and lived in a cave for 4 years. And he knew he was in trouble when the local people started to bring him alms. And so he came back to America, and of course he meditated for 65 days to decide what he would do in life. And the person who told me this story was driving me to an airport, and I asked the obvious question, what did he come up with? And this man turned to me in a conspiratorial way and said simply, vegetable protein. As if that phrase would explain all. But what had happened is that Steve had figured out that the problem with soy milk was not the product, but the container that relegated it to the weird food section of the grocery store. So he took soy, matched it with milk, called it silk, packaged it in milk cartons, insisted that it go into the dairy section even though it didn't need to be, and 4 years later sold his company for $295 million. And what Steve had really figured out was a universal lesson, that life is not linear or predictable. A career is not something that you try on like a coat. It's something that grows around you organically, step by step, experience by experience, choice by choice. No work is beneath you. Everything adds up. Nothing is a waste of time unless you make it so. An elderly cab driver in New York may have as much to teach you as a sadhu in India or a madman in the Syrian sands of the Sahara. And if you it's so simple really the way life works. You place yourself like an opportunist, not a schemer. You just put yourself in the way of opportunities in situations where there is no choice but to move forward, no option but success. And you create this kind of weird momentum that in the end carries you to places that a few short months before would have been beyond your imaginings. It's really so important, and this is a lesson it took me years to understand, to realize that creativity is a consequence of action, not its motivation. Do what needs to be done, and then ask whether it was possible or permissible. Pessimism is an indulgence. Orthodoxy is the enemy of invention. Despair an insult to the imagination. Nature, curiously enough, loves courage. An old friend of mine, Jim Whittaker, the first American to reach the summit of Everest, once said that if you don't live on the edge, you're taking up too much space. And my friend Terence McKenna once told me in the Amazon that the extraordinary thing was that you could dream the impossible and the world would not drag you under, it would actually lift you up. This, he said, was a great surprise, the message of the mystics and saints. You hurl yourself into the abyss and discover that you land on a feather bed. And many of you, I can already sense, are concerned about finding jobs. Well, you better be a little careful. The word job comes from the 16th century French word gobert, meaning to devour. My father had a job all of his life. He called it the grind. He used to, I feared when he'd come home from work every day a little bit shorter. I never had a job in that sense. Actually, I've never had a job at all. And I don't think any of you will find a sort of single slot in which to plug your entire existence. But what you will do is work, and hopefully as ferociously hard as I have all of my life. And that wonderful word work has a better ring to it. It comes from the old English phrase meaning action, deed, creation. And you'll find that the work you do is just a lens through which to experience the world, and only for a time. The goal is to make living itself, the act of being alive, one's vocation, knowing full well that nothing ultimately can be planned or anticipated, no blueprint found to predict the outcome of something as complex as a human life. But if one can remain open to the potential of the new, the promise of the unimagined, then magic happens and a life takes form. So to parents, I always say at these commencements, please be patient. The best of things come out of those incapable of compromise. It takes time for any individual to create a new world of possibilities, to imagine and bring into being that which has never before existed, the wonder of a full and realized life. And to graduates, I always say, please give as much thought to the person you will become as the vocation you will pursue. Money in the end counts for nothing, but acts of compassion and loving kindness resonate through eternity. When I was a young man living in the mountains of Colombia, a Kamsa Indian told me something I've never forgotten. In the first years of your life, Pedro said, you live beneath the shadow of the past, too young to know what to do. In your last years, you find that you're too old to understand the world coming at you from behind. In between, there is a small and narrow beam of light that illuminates your life. So if you can look back over a long life and see that you have owned your choices, then there is little ground for resentment. Bitterness comes to those who look back with regret on the choices imposed upon them. The greatest creative challenge is the struggle to be the architect of your own life. So please be patient, never compromise, and give your destiny time to find you. Thanks very much for allowing me to be with you today.